If you have hot flashes, your heart may be trying to tell you something. Not maybe, not possibly. Your doctor most likely never said that to you. But the research says it clearly, and today I am going to show you exactly what it means, and more importantly, what you can do about it starting today. Here is something most women never hear. Hot flashes and cardiovascular risk share the same root cause. The same instability that sends a wave of heat through your body is also quietly affecting your blood vessels. And the women who know this have a real advantage. The ones who don't know it just wait for the hot flashes to pass on their own. Today, I am going to give you 5 steps that reduce hot flash frequency and protect your heart at the same time. Because the most important part of this story is that one protocol fixes both. Stay with me, because step 3 is the one almost nobody talks about, and it may be the most important of all. I want to tell you about a woman I'll call Diane. Diane is 63. She had her last period at 54. For 2 years after that, hot flashes were relentless. She kept a small fan beside her bed every night. She stopped wearing high-necked shirts entirely. She would wake up drenched at 2 in the morning and lie completely still, trying not to wake her husband, waiting for the heat to pass before she could go back to sleep. She mentioned it to her doctor and was told it was normal menopause and that it would settle down with time. By 58, the hot flashes had quieted somewhat. She still got them, particularly at night, but less dramatically. She told herself the hard part was over. She moved on. She never thought about them again, except as an inconvenience she was glad to mostly be past. What Diane didn't know is that research conducted over the last decade has found something that nobody told her in any of those brief appointments. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Women who experience persistent or severe hot flashes, particularly those that continue well into the postmenopausal years, have measurably higher markers of cardiovascular risk than women whose symptoms were mild or brief. Not because the hot flashes caused heart disease directly, but because both are expressions of the same underlying vascular instability, running quietly in the background, often for years, while women assume the chapter is simply closed. If that sounds alarming, please keep watching, because the second half of this story is genuinely hopeful. What reduces hot flash frequency also directly protects your cardiovascular system. 1 set of changes. 2 outcomes. Hit subscribe right now because this is exactly the kind of connection that changes how women take care of themselves after 60. And almost no one is talking about it clearly. Here is what is actually happening in simple terms. Estrogen does 2 important jobs that are rarely discussed together. First, it stabilizes your body's internal thermostat in the brain. Second, it keeps the inner lining of your blood vessels, called the endothelium, healthy and flexible. When estrogen drops after menopause, both of these systems become less stable at the same time. The instability in your thermostat causes hot flashes. Your blood vessels dilate suddenly. Heat rushes to your skin. Your heart rate spikes briefly, and you feel that wave of heat from inside out. That dilation and spike is a real cardiovascular event, small and usually harmless on its own. But in women who experience it frequently over years, repeated episodes of sudden vascular dilation and spike appear to contribute to a process called endothelial dysfunction, where the inner walls of blood vessels become less efficient at regulating blood flow. Now, here is where it gets really important, and this is the part I want you to pay close attention to. The same research group from the SWAN study, the study of women's health across the nation, one of the most comprehensive long-term studies of women's health through menopause, followed thousands of women over many years and found something that should be more widely known. Women with persistent hot flashes, meaning hot flashes that continued beyond the early transition years or that were frequent and severe, had significantly greater arterial stiffness and thicker carotid artery walls compared to women whose symptoms resolved early or were mild. These are 2 of the most important measurable predictors of future cardiovascular events. The hot flashes were not causing this directly, but they were a visible external signal that the vascular system was under strain from the same hormonal instability happening underneath the surface. Think of hot flashes as your blood vessels speaking. They are saying, "My ability to regulate dilation and constriction has become less stable." That is the same instability that, over years, contributes to cardiovascular risk. The hot flash is not the enemy. It is the messenger. Here is the part that changes everything. None of this is inevitable, and the fix is simpler than you think. And the protocol that reduces hot flash frequency is the same protocol that addresses the underlying vascular instability. This is not two separate health problems to manage separately. It is one system sending two signals at once and one set of changes that quiets both. 5 steps. Here they are. Step 1. Add phytoestrogens to your daily diet. You have probably heard of phytoestrogens, but you may not know why they work specifically for this. Here is the mechanism. Phytoestrogens are plant compounds that partially mimic the role of estrogen in your body. They are not estrogen, they are much weaker, but they bind to the same receptors that estrogen uses in your blood vessel walls and in your thermoregulatory system, providing a gentle, consistent background signal that helps stabilize both. The best dietary sources are fermented soy products, miso, tempeh, and edamame. Flax seeds, particularly freshly ground, are another excellent source. Sesame seeds and chickpeas also contribute. A large clinical meta-analysis reviewed multiple studies on phytoestrogen intake in postmenopausal women and found consistent reduction in hot flash frequency and improvement in endothelial function markers with regular daily intake. The same dietary habit. Both outcomes improved. How to use it. A tablespoon of ground flaxseed stirred into your morning yogurt every single day. A serving of miso soup several times a week. Edamame as a snack. These are gentle, consistent, daily additions, not dramatic overhauls. Step 2. Prioritize magnesium every day. Magnesium is involved in over 300 processes in your body. 2 of the most relevant here are vascular smooth muscle relaxation and nervous system regulation. Hot flashes involve sudden, sharp vascular reactivity. A well-functioning cardiovascular system requires the smooth muscle of blood vessel walls to relax and constrict in a measured, controlled way. Magnesium supports both. Multiple studies have found that magnesium deficiency is associated with both more frequent vasomotor symptoms and higher cardiovascular risk markers in postmenopausal women. Supplementing with magnesium has been shown in smaller trials to reduce hot flash frequency and improve sleep in women over 60 who are deficient, which is a very common state in this age group. Magnesium-rich foods include dark leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, almonds, avocado, and dark chocolate above 70% cacao. Functional medicine commonly discusses supplemental magnesium in daily ranges starting at 300 to 400 milligrams as a general educational starting point, always reviewed with your physician, particularly if you take any medications for heart or blood pressure. Step 3. Omega-3 fatty acids, consistently. This is one that women already taking for other reasons are often surprised to learn is also working here. Omega-3s have 2 specific mechanisms that matter for this connection. First, they reduce systemic inflammation, including in blood vessel walls. A less inflamed endothelium regulates blood flow more efficiently and contributes to lower cardiovascular risk over time. Second, there is evidence that omega-3s reduce the severity of vasomotor symptoms in postmenopausal women. A 2023 review of clinical trials found that regular omega-3 supplementation was associated with reduced hot flash frequency and severity in a meaningful proportion of participants. How to use it. Fatty fish at least twice a week. A quality fish oil supplement providing 1 to 3 grams of combined EPA and DHA daily. This is the same daily habit we have discussed for other outcomes in previous videos. The cardiovascular and hot flash benefits are 2 more reasons to be consistent about it. Step 4. Manage cortisol actively, every day. Cortisol is the connection most women never hear about in the hot flash conversation, and it is an important one. When cortisol is chronically elevated from ongoing stress, poor sleep, or irregular routines, 2 things happen simultaneously. Hot flashes become more frequent. The same vascular instability that drives hot flashes becomes more pronounced when cortisol is high, and the inflammatory burden on blood vessel walls increases, which directly affects cardiovascular risk over time. There is a second layer to this. Chronic elevated cortisol suppresses the protective effects of what little estrogen remains in your body after menopause. It reduces how effectively the phytoestrogens you eat from food can bind to your receptors. It makes magnesium harder for your body to retain. In other words, cortisol works against almost every other step in this protocol if you do not address it directly. The most practical and evidence-based daily cortisol management tool that requires nothing and costs nothing is controlled breathing. Specifically, breathing with an exhale that is longer than your inhale. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the calm branch of your nervous system, and lowers cortisol measurably within minutes. Inhale for 4 counts. Hold briefly. Exhale slowly for 6 to 8 counts. 5 minutes of this before bed, or at any high-stress moment in your day, produces a real and measurable reduction in cortisol. It is one of the most underused tools in women's health, partly because it sounds too simple to work as well as it does. It works. Step 5. Never skip morning movement. This one is the simplest on the list, and the research on it is some of the strongest. Regular moderate aerobic exercise is one of the most consistently documented interventions for reducing hot flash frequency and improving cardiovascular health markers simultaneously in postmenopausal women. Not intense exercise, not training for a marathon. Consistent, moderate movement. 30 minutes of brisk walking 5 days a week has been shown in multiple clinical trials to reduce hot flash frequency by meaningful amounts over 12 weeks while also improving arterial flexibility and reducing blood pressure. The mechanism is the same for both benefits. Regular aerobic movement trains your blood vessels to dilate and constrict in a controlled, measured way. This is exactly the vascular control that hot flashes represent the failure of. Exercise is literally training the vascular system to become more stable. More stable vessels mean fewer severe hot flashes, and fewer severe hot flashes means less repeated acute vascular strain over time. A morning walk is also one of the most reliable cortisol regulators available. It combines light exposure, rhythmic movement, and fresh air into a package that reduces cortisol, supports vascular health, and directly addresses hot flash frequency, all in one 30-minute commitment. Before I go back to Diane, one thing worth being clear about. If your hot flashes are severe, very frequent, or significantly disrupting your sleep, please discuss this with your doctor, including the cardiovascular connection. There are medical options available, including low-dose hormonal options and non-hormonal medications that may be appropriate for your situation. The protocol I've described today is complementary to that conversation, not a replacement for it. The research on lifestyle factors for hot flashes and cardiovascular health is strong, but it works best alongside a relationship with a doctor who knows your full picture. Let's go back to Diane. Once she understood that her hot flashes had been a signal she could have been acting on for years, a signal that had been there the whole time waiting for someone to explain it to her, she stopped waiting for them to simply disappear. She added ground flaxseed to her breakfast every morning without exception. She started taking magnesium in the evening. She walked for 30 minutes every morning before she did anything else. She learned the slow exhale breathing practice and used it every night before sleep. Within 6 weeks, she told me the hot flashes at night were noticeably less frequent. Not gone, but from waking 3 to 4 times a week, she was waking once. And when she went to her next annual checkup and her blood pressure was lower than it had been in years, her doctor asked what she had changed. She said, "I started taking my hot flashes seriously." That is exactly the right way to think about this. Not as something to endure and wait out, as a signal worth listening to. So here's what I want you to do this week. Add ground flaxseed to one meal every single day. Start your morning with a walk, even 15 minutes to begin. And try the slow breathing for 5 minutes before bed tonight. Those 3 changes together start addressing both sides of this connection from the very first day. Leave a comment telling me how long you've been dealing with hot flashes and whether you ever heard about the heart connection before today. And share this video with every woman you know who is in the middle of this stage of life. The information that changes health outcomes is the information that gets shared. Subscribe for more honest, practical conversations like this one. I'll see you in the next video.